Hey everybody, welcome to Black Lotus, where we talk about all things strange and unusual. And originally we were going to have Laurie McDonald on, who is a hypnotherapist, but she is a no-show, and Kimberly O'Connor is having some issues with her internet, and Michael Roser is a no-show as well. So yeah, I don't know how long we're going to be on today. But we thought maybe we could answer some questions. There is a person in the room called the Genie's Ass. I love that. And they asked, is it possible that these people who remember being abducted are like me in that they have a hard time knowing if it's my own experience or something I've seen on TV or in a book? Yeah, that's actually a fairly common question that abductees get, and people wonder if they may have these screen memories from just watching a TV show or something like that, or watching a movie. That was something that I questioned about myself quite a bit, actually, when I was going through this thing, when I thought I was just crazy, and I was asking myself repeatedly, is this something I've seen out of Close Encounters or something like that? And I finally made up my mind that it was not. And the reason being is because I've talked to a lot of abductees, and my story is extremely similar to their own. And so I finally realized that no, it really did happen. So, but anybody else in the room? I see Chuck Bam is here. Hey, Chuck, what's going on, man? Chuck, do you have any questions for us? I don't know if you caught this, but Laurie McDonald is a no-show today. And so we're not going to be able to talk to her. That was the original intent.
While we wait for questions, I could comment on that first question. So the first question is bringing up a really good point. It's saying, if you had an experience, you may doubt yourself, and you may say, was this a real abduction experience, or am I dreaming about something in a movie or a TV or book that I saw? Is that influencing? So that's a really good question. And I think it's a good question to ask. And I think the point you brought up, Damien, is good as well. If it's a very detailed experience, and then you could corroborate it with what other people say, then I think that gives it more evidence.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey, Michael. What's going on, Michael?
How are you?
Kim's back. We're good.
Hey.
Let me explain the situation here. We were going to have Laurie McDonald on, and she's a no-show. And so the whole show is based around her. So I'm not sure how long we're going to be around tonight.
That's fine. Whatever you guys want to do. What are you on right now? Are you talking about anything in specific?
Yeah, one of our guests asked if the experience that he had, he's wondering if it was a real experience or if it was just something that he saw maybe on television or in a movie or in a book or something like that. And so how do you discern that? But
that's tough. That's tough, isn't it? And that's sort of the danger, I think, in a lot of these recollections, or even going into some of the science fiction and then crossing the bridge. I'll say something very quickly. I've actually consciously stayed away from fiction in doing, this kind of work, because I didn't want to have any sort of influence there where it might pop up from my subconscious and it would try to fit in the story. So I wanted to eliminate that possibility. So that's a very good question. Yep. So there you go, Kim. That's
yeah, I did the exact same thing because it'll muddy it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it's just, you have that, again, possibility for something to come up through the subconscious, wherein you're trying to actually piece together a reality, and whoop, here's this one little image of the Starship Enterprise. I think I remember a Starship. You know what I mean? So, you can go anywhere.
Reekin Havoc is with us. Hey, Reekin, what's going on, man?
Hey, John.
Yeah, he mentioned you need an abductee on your show. Well, here's the thing. I'm an abductee, and so is Kimberly O'Connor. And so, yeah. If you guys are just joining, hey, Alien Girl, what's up? If you guys are just joining us, I want to mention again that Laurie McDonald was a no-show for us today. I don't know why. Could be anything. I don't know. Things happen. So we're not really sure how long we're going to be on tonight, but because the whole show was geared around her. But Valerian the Mac, what's up, man? How are you?
Yeah.
Well, happy Father's Day, Michael. Are you doing anything special for today?
Thank you very much, Guy. I spent the day with my kids. We were down at the beach down at the coast, as I've mentioned we have access to before. It's a fantastic day. Cooked a nice lamb dinner, and you can't ask for much more than that. Honestly, just got back into Massachusetts now, bursting through the door with bags flying. Go! I gotta get on the show.
Awesome.
Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do, right? Thank you, though. I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Kim.
We had a certified clinical hypnotherapist on our podcast yesterday.
Good for you.
Her name was Leslie Mitchell Clark, and she was pretty fascinating to talk to. But she is one of these people that she's a lot like Laurie McDonald in that she doesn't lead her clients into questions. She just basically puts them under and then lets them do the talking. That's one of the things I don't like about a lot of hypnotherapists is that, they make puppets out of the clients. They make them say what they want them to say, and I think that's very wrong.
They got leading triggers.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that one researcher? Man, I forget his name. But he believes that he's written books and he does abduction stuff, and he really thinks that the abductions are like bad. They have a bad intention. I forget that guy's name. I'm sure Michael. I'm sure you know this guy's name. He's like a skinny guy with a mustache and. Oh man, I forget what his name is, but he was. Yeah, I just cannot remember his name. But he's still alive today, and he publishes books on just abduction. And he talked to a lot of people all over the world that were abducted, and he pieced together their stories. And he made an outline basically of like everything. He saw all these steps that everybody goes through. So he was kind of like adding evidence that it's real. And he's totally negative on the whole thing. He really thinks that these, whatever they are, they have bad intentions. They're trying to take over the planet. And I think he believes in a hybridization program. So he believes that that's how they're going to take over, which is a smart way to do it. One way to take over a planet would be, with a brute force, just bombing everybody. But another way to do it is to do it secretly over a long period of time and to slowly turn people into hybrids. And that way you do take over the planet because slowly your genetic material is basically inundating the planet. And that's what this guy believes.
Yeah, well, I believe in the hybridization program. I really do. But I'm of the opinion that they're not much of a threat. I think if they were a threat, we'd be done away with by now.
I agree. Totally.
So I don't know if they're truly benevolent, but I don't think they're a threat. So.
Well, I will point out this. This is something I learned in graduate school. So it's a difference between a parasite and what's called a parasitoid. So people kind of get them mixed up together. Okay, so a parasite does not try to kill you. It is bad for a parasite to kill you. They want you to stay alive as long as possible. But there's something called they feed from you. So there's something else called a parasitoid. A parasitoid, it does end up killing you. So I can't think of it. I mean, there's some real world examples of parasitoids, but I can think of one in fiction, which is basically the alien with the chest burster, that would not be considered a parasite. That would be a parasitoid because basically the way that alien works, there's an egg, there's the egg hatches, this animal grips onto your face and then impregnates you. And then something bursts out of your chest, killing you. So that would be a parasitoid. And it is part of its plan to kill you. So the reason I'm saying this is just because we're not dead yet does not mean that this thing is not bad for us. These grays, because I hear people say we would have already been dead. That's true if they were parasitoids, But if they're just parasites, which are still bad for us, their goal is not to kill us. Their goal is to keep us alive as long as possible. So I'm just trying to say, just because these things haven't killed us already, it doesn't mean they're not bad. It doesn't mean that they're not hurting us in some way. Just like a parasite will kill you.
There's a theory out there that they are here because they need us to exist. That they had problems breeding way back when, and that they found ways to intersplice their own species with ours, and so that's how they continue to breed. And and I've also heard that they live hundreds of years. So the fact that we still have grays out there is a good probability of that. So.
Well, we have to realize that there's more than just the grays. I mean, there's astronomical number of species out there.
Mm-hmm.
And
I don't think all of them are bad. I think some of them are.
Well, look at our own species. We have the good, the bad, and the ugly. Some that just don't do anything, some that are just plain mean, and some that are just plain good. I mean, we've got to expect that the same exists out there as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sure, absolutely.
Well, look how many people.
You were going to say something
out of nowhere.
Yeah. You were going to say something, Michael, I think.
Oh, I was just going to ask you, and excuse me, it may not be completely relevant, but what you were describing to me reminded me of how Lyme disease transfers from animal to animal, wherein it has this symbiotic relationship with the tick. And then once it bites in, of course, it's transmitted through the saliva and goes into that body of the animal, lays dormant, and so forth. But the whole idea is for this particular virus to continue to find a one way, shape, or form to continue to survive. And one of the reasons it doesn't necessarily like us is because within our system, we're sort of a dead end for that particular virus. In fact, it will actually kill us. It's not something that we can live with for the rest of our lives and be these carriers of such. But again, it was just something you were reminding me of. And I was wondering if that description is more in the way of what you were describing, or if there's a different system of interpretation.
For the Lyme disease, basically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you call
Lyme
it,
disease, that is
what kind?
Yeah, so the two things are, so first of all, Lyme disease would be different. I think that is just an illness, so it would be different than a parasite or a parasitoid. Parasites and parasitoids are actual organisms. So Lyme disease is an actual virus, I think. So it's different than an organism. So a common parasite would be like a leech, a tapeworm. Mm-hmm. These would be parasites that they live in us and they don't want to kill us. But then there's other animals called parasitoids, which are like, I think some wasps out there are parasitoids. So some wasps lay their eggs in another animal, and then when the eggs hatch, they kill that animal. So that is a parasitoid, because its goal is to kill something. So yeah, Lyme disease is similar, but I think it does not meet those two categories. But the reason I bring this up again is because I see this in forums, in videos all the time. People always say, I don't think they're a threat because they would have already done something to us. They would have already killed us just because they can. But I want people to say that. I want them to think about the idea that perhaps they're playing the long game. They do have bad intentions for us, but they're just not doing it right away. They have a long plan and they're slowly going under development. Or the idea that they are hurting us in some way without killing us. Or like Ralph said, it could be that we don't realize they're hurting us. Like all these missing people, it could be they're doing it. So just because they haven't obviously hurt us or attacked us doesn't mean that they're not bad for us. And I'm not saying they are bad for us. I just think we should keep our mind open to the idea that they could be bad for us. And the other thing is, I found that researcher's name is Dr. David Jacobs is the guy I was talking about.
Oh, okay. I know that guy.
Yeah.
Well, even if they are a threat, what are you going to do about it? In all seriousness, I mean, there's not much we can do but accept that this might be a possibility if in case they are a threat.
Well, I would say
the thing, this government report that's coming out, the reason it's coming out in the first place is because Congress thinks that they may be a threat. Well, like Michael just said, if they're a threat, what are we going to do about it? What's our government going to do about it? Shoot at them? No. Wouldn't be wise anyway.
Well, I think the thing to do about it is learn about them, is start taking them seriously. It's not going to immediately help us, but the thing we can do about it is start learning about them and start studying them. Just like we have with any other disease out there or any other threat we've had, the way we've gotten some kind of foothold is by studying, taking it seriously and studying it. Yeah.
No, that's there as an option, especially in the face of a threat. I mean, you got to think about, not to go too far down this rabbit hole, but the entire narrative that they're spinning, it's just fear mongering. Again, what's the end all plan? If these are a threat, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to do anything about it? Will we lay down and become some sort of slave race that is perhaps reminiscent of our origin? What's going to happen next? I mean, there's so many different theories in the way of speculation when it comes to this sort of thing, some of them lending to what's purportedly happened in the past, and some of them more based in modern thoughts of what extraterrestrials are. So, I mean, again, I'm on the same side as you, Damien, here, where I don't believe that they're a threat. There's something more natural to this environment than perhaps we even are, and therefore have more command and possibly even more right to be where they are in respect to this planet. We just don't understand the dynamic of it. So, I mean, there's a lot spun into this, cotton candy ball of theories and philosophies surrounding, again, both of these narratives interweaving. It's just a huge mess right now. And I think in time, we're hoping for a little clarity. Do we think we're going to get everything on the 25th here? Probably not. I mean, they had this whole window of time to give us information and disseminate what they had. It's not like they were saving up for the grand finale where they're just going to dump everything. I'd be surprised if it turned out that way. Honestly, I would be. But, we're going to have to see.
So.
Yeah, no. I got a question for the group. Since we're talking about alien abductions, what are your thoughts on that whole idea that was it Truman or Eisenhower? I can't remember. Made a deal with aliens shortly after the whole Roswell crash thing happened.
Eisenhower.
There was Eisenhower. Thank you. There was a whole deal where it was an exchange program basically, and so we would allow them to abduct people.
Kennedy actually
in exchange for
agreed to
technology.
all of that, though, at the end.
I'm sorry, I was talking over you, Ken.
Kennedy actually agreed to all that after Eisenhower made the initial meetings. Truman knew about the different species. Eisenhower took over. Kennedy was also affiliated and learned about it. Henceforth, that's how Serpo also was agreed upon as well, as far as that whole thing being the trade-off, and technology has been changed. Excuse me?
The 20-year thing, is that what you're talking about with Serpo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But who's to say that this didn't happen long before that too, though? But just without an agreement.
Do you believe it?
What about Serpo?
Well, about Serpo and the exchange program for the technology.
We didn't have. I was just watching documentaries today as well. We didn't have the technology in the 40s that then all of a sudden we started progressing right afterwards, right after Roswell.
I want to ask.
Go ahead.
I was just curious. Okay, so I haven't got into this. I haven't researched this idea that the government has been working with aliens. I haven't really got deep into it. So my question as a newbie is, what evidence do we have to support this? Are there any documents? Is it just stories, or where do these stories come from? And what evidence do we have to support?
I don't think we have any documents on it. I don't think we have any supporting documents.
Okay.
Not that I know of anyway.
You got documents, you got it blacked out.
Yeah.
we do have documents, but a lot of it's been redacted, and they are documents that were more than likely very classified, and somebody had leaked these out. But it's hard to even corroborate where that might have come from in respect to the way that it's ascertained. So to answer your question there, Wild Trees, I don't think we have anything in front of us that definitively says Valiant Thor was here. He signed his name. He worked with us, or any other species along those lines.
Right.
So where do these stories come from? Are they leaks? I mean, where do these stories come from, basically?
A lot of them
yeah,
are firsthand accounts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of them are
I mean,
firsthand accounts. There were documents that did exist on certain projects and certain interactions, but over time, they've disappeared.
Okay.
Same thing with the pictures of, supposedly the autopsies, the videotapings. We don't understand. We don't know if these are true or, same thing with other pictures, but we do know that they do exist, and there are reports of the beings, the crash sites, and them finding beings at the crash sites and being rushed to Wright-Patterson here in Ohio.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I heard somebody tell me once that alien abductees and believing in alien abduction is almost a religion. It's about, and so much as you have to have faith to believe that this stuff exists and it's happening. But for those of us who have actually experienced it, it's a very real thing. And I understand how hard it is for people to believe in UFOs and abductions. I understand how hard it is to do that, but when you think about it logically, it makes sense that people are being abducted and UFOs really do exist. So that's
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, clear back in biblical times, you've got paintings that depict all of that. I mean, they painted what they seen. It wasn't like it was just one.
Well, even
Right.
before that, with the Anunnaki's artwork,
Sure.
it's all there.
Yeah.
There's enough in front of us to make a very clearly educated guess about what we're deducing from the evidence that's coming forth. A lot of it's soft evidence, a lot of it's anecdotal, but put it together. All right. I mean, I'm not finding this same sort of volume with any sort of fictionalized creature, let's say a version of Jason or Freddy Krueger. They're more modern, but in the same time, people put a lot of effort towards the creation of some of these stories about being abducted, or, the videotapes, the photographic evidence. I mean, we're not just talking about having an interaction with a specific species. We're talking about crafts that all five of us, if we go out to the skies, we may see them ourselves. And then, of course, ask these questions. Again, there's enough in front of us that we can say, if you do a little research, intelligently come to a conclusion that we may not be alone here. I think that's the most intelligent way to look at this at this point in time.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with Wreaking Havoc on his channel, and we were talking about abductions, and we came to the conclusion that abductions are just so common. And I'm not talking about aliens abducting humans. I think that does happen. I think humans abduct other humans. Humans abduct animals. I mean, when we go out into nature and we grab an animal, that's an abduction, Scientists do it. But like humans have technology. We have cell phones and cars and the internet, and we abduct other humans. And I think that aliens get abducted by other aliens. So we just came to this conclusion that abduction is just very common in our universe. It just happens all the time. It's just one of the things that goes on, unfortunately.
With that in mind, do you think that they conducted hybridization programs on other species as well? And do you think that that's why we have so many grays?
Yeah, that could be. I've heard stories like that. The thing is, there's so many organisms out there that have so many beneficial adaptations. In other words, their genetic material is very valuable for different reasons. I don't see why they wouldn't have experimented with other animals as well. Perhaps humans are the most close to them, so they use us a lot. But they could take like certain amphibians can regrow limbs. So they may take those genetic material from those animals so they can regrow their own limbs. Certain animals can regrow their teeth, or they could bioluminesce, or they could see in the dark. I see them taking those things from other animals as well. I don't see why they wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
What's
look at the
interesting-
Hydra. I mean, the Hydra can put itself together completely.
Right.
Well, it's interesting too that a lot of these insect species and perhaps even mammal species, they have some sort of reflective properties that these other species have, such as the insectoid element or draconian. You have the dragon in there, or perhaps somebody might say that it looks more like a dinosaur, or iguana based, whatever the case is. They've clearly been sharing DNA somewhere here. I don't think the apple falls too far from the tree. It's just a matter of trying to piece together. I mean, I've often heard that if you want to connect with extraterrestrials, that you must be very in tune with nature. And if you're out there killing insects even, that's offensive to a particular species who might look at those as some sort of extended family. It's a little odd to think about, but truthfully, if that is the dynamic, it would make sense that we would have to be more in tune with our surroundings and with nature, and to understand that there isn't even an immediate threat from our immediate environment, let alone what's beyond the spheres.
Yeah, look at the mantis species.
Yeah, the mantises. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Because they have such great genetic, I do think they have genetic abilities. I really wonder if the way they appear, is that really what they truly naturally look like, or have they modified themselves beyond their original?
Is that a covering just for us to, or is that just something to hide behind to pacify us and accept?
Well, I mean, they're very scary looking, so I don't think they're doing it to calm us down, because if they wanted to, they could present themselves to look very non-threatening, but perhaps, I don't know.
A lot of them will, shapeshift or, change just to be less frightening, I would say.
Yeah.
Well, here's a question. Speaking of appearance, here's a question for you. Do you think that they project their image? Like, for instance, when you hear a lot about alien abductees who have first encountered these aliens, like in their bedroom, and then these aliens just materialize, or they come through a wall or something. Do you think that they're just projecting their image? Or
I don't.
Are they physically there?
I don't know, because I don't know. This is the reason why, because I've been reading accounts where people say they wake up, the alien's by their bed, the alien picks them up, and then both of them travel through the wall. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So in that instance, it seems like the person is actually there. So perhaps the alien is also there as well, physically. You know what I mean? But then there's also the idea that abductions are not physical at all. They're all just like mental or spiritual. Like they're not taking you. So, but maybe both of them are correct too. It's a very confusing aspect, for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that both can't be true. That's a good point.
Right. So
I think these things are certainly here physically. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, I was just going to say, as I mentioned earlier, we had Leslie Mitchell-Clark on our podcast yesterday, and who is a certified clinical hypnotherapist. And one of the things we talked about was that she said that in her experience with her clients, no one really has only just one abduction experience. It's something that happens as early as age 3, and it usually happens early on in life. And I told her, I said, well, with my experience, I remember just the one. And when I was talking to her about that, I suddenly had this flashback memory of when I was about 6 years old and walking past a cow pasture with my mother, and I saw this silver disc hovering in the sky over the pasture. And I looked at my mom and I said, what is that? And she said, don't worry about it. And then she took my hand and we walked away. And it kind of made me think, because a lot of people think that abductees are generational. And it kind of made me wonder if, it was broad daylight out. And I wonder if we were just being dropped off from an experience we had together, and she doesn't remember it and I don't remember it. And the other thing too is my mom never believed in UFOs or anything like that. She was a career woman. She was extremely down to earth. And yeah, she just never believed in this stuff. But I wonder if she just never remembered anything that had happened. But in my experience, I was shown that like a family tree kind of thing. And she was one of the people on that tree along with my uncle. And, but yeah, I don't know.
Interesting.
It's had me thinking ever since we talked about it, you know?
Yeah, if you remember right, I said I feel that it's a family generational issue.
Yeah.
That, you know, usually one or two are taken within each generation. There's no it's not necessary to take an entire family when you can just do testing on one or two.
Right. Well, and that's one of the things we were talking about was that oftentimes siblings will be taken together, and eventually it's only the one that is eventually taken repeatedly, and possibly because they can withstand the treatment or whatever. I don't know, more so than the other person.
Okay, interesting. Oh,
interesting thought. I mean, your first question initially was, do you think that they could project themselves? I mean, we've heard of, you know, beings and encounters wherein they had some sort of device maybe on their belt or another part of their person. They're able to flip this switch and they could change from a human form right into something much more grotesque and possibly more reflective of what they naturally look like. You know, if these beings are able to even communicate with thought, and that's the primary form of communication, they understand a few things about physicality. I would assume that they are able to manipulate the physical world, or at least our perception of the physical world, very readily. Some of them perhaps psychically or through an intuitive based understanding, or perhaps it's more technological or a combination of the two. I actually lean more on the latter end of that description there, because I think that, you know, technology and spirituality, at least in way of energy and consciousness, go hand in hand. And if these other beings are as advanced as they are purported to be, it would stand to reason that they've already gotten to that point and mastered it.
If you stop and think about it, those of us that experienced or ended up seeing things like that, your senses are heightened. Things have changed, and it's not so much for spirituality, but for things really did change. I mean, everything has a different perspective. Things are looked at differently.
Right, absolutely, and that's one of the things that I noticed was that, you know, prior to the abduction, I paid attention to politics, I paid attention to world events, but not really. I didn't really care that much. But afterward, I lost my faith in religion. You know, I got very interested in politics. I got very interested in what was happening throughout the world, and you know, I mean, and I started leaning toward Wicca, and then later on toward Buddhism. But I developed this theory that most of the problems in the world are due to religion, and even when spanning into politics, a lot of the problems are due to religion. And so I just couldn't stomach that anymore, and I became very vocal about it. Now that may have been because of my age. Maybe it's just a natural progression to get to that point, because I was 23 at the time, and so that could be true, but I don't know. I mean, because it was like a sudden change at that point.
Oh yeah, like a switch just went off.
Yep.
I mean, literally, it's like doors open and everything is just seen completely differently. And when you see things differently, I mean, just like you said, yeah, religion takes a different. You look at religion differently, completely.
Speaking about religion, Chuck Bam had a question about UFO spirituality and cargo cults. So I'll just give a definition of a cargo cult. We probably know what it is, but a cargo cult is a belief system which adherents perform rituals which they believe will cause a more technologically advanced society to deliver goods. So this comes from a Melanesian island this island was cut off from society, and they saw some World War II planes, and they thought, well, they were right. They were more technologically advanced. But then this Melanesian island started performing all these rituals. They made a religion, and they were trying to get those pilots to come back and drop off goods. So Chuck Bam was asking, do you think this would happen with, with if UFOs and aliens become well known? Do you think people will start performing as a cargo cult, performing rituals to get them? And then he was asking if me personally, because I do want to make contact with them, CE5, and I personally want to gain some more insights spiritually, not really anything material. Although if they want to give me some gold bars, that'd be cool too. But I guess you just leave it under my bed. It's fine. I'll take it. And then I guess the question is, the question that I have, I guess, is that, do you think cargo cults will become more prevalent as a form of religion once this ball starts rolling and people start accepting it more? So will people start performing rituals to try to get things from?
Well, wasn't that what Obama was recently saying? He said that he sees new religions popping up after this report.
Yeah, I guess that could be what he was referring to. Yeah.
No, possibly.
Yeah.
I don't really have an opinion on it. My only opinion about this is that religion is like the last thing we need more of.
I think Michael froze
True,
on it.
but what we really need to do is be that people get, the more informed they are about what it is that they're seeing in the skies or what have you, the less likely they're going to say this comes from somewhere illogical and maybe I can put it in the realm of belief. It's really going to be up to people. I think initially, again, because people do not understand what we're seeing and what these reports are even all about in some cases, there is going to be an influx of certain religions or religious beliefs, rituals arising based out of ignorance for what we're actually experiencing. Again, it's up to us in the way that we disseminate the information. If we're doing something like that, we have a responsibility to do it properly, wherein people, again, know what they're looking at and don't make false pretenses about something.
Right.
Yeah. I wonder what's going to happen to the standard religions like Christianity, Islam. I think Buddhism could accept it more easily than the other standard religions.
Yeah.
I think you're right on that one too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, extraterrestrials aren't necessarily going to tell these people that they're wrong, that their religion is incorrect. They may offer another point of view about something, but it might still fit right into there. I mean, it's been said plenty of times that someone who has a certain religion, when they pass on, because that's their belief system, we talk about creating your reality after you pass, they meet Muhammad, they meet Jesus, they meet the Virgin Mary, whatever it is that they have been scribed to in their life, they're most comfortable, and that's their highest vision of whatever the most sacred thing is. So that's it. That's their experience. I don't think extraterrestrials in their right form would say, hey, you guys have the wrong perspective. They may, again, present something alternative and say, hey, how about you think about this? Maybe you can understand how this all incorporates, and then maybe we go down the path of how thoughts manifest while in the physical and after death. And then you understand that a little bit more rather than supporting a particular ideology or religious deity.
Exactly.
Well, I wonder if they would confirm that our original gods were the Anunnaki and that all religion came from that, basically. I wonder if they would confirm that.
Interesting. What do you guys think about? I have two questions, but I'll just ask one at a time because I don't want it to get confusing. What do you guys think of the idea? There was a filmmaker who was just talking about this. He's the one who just made the film called The Phenomenon, and he made Out of the Blue. I forget I'm forgetting all these names, but there's this filmmaker. He just came out with a movie. He was told that through some official channels that it's very likely or very true that aliens are already walking among us in disguise. Which I'm starting to think, why not? Why wouldn't that be true? What do you guys think? Do you think you may have already met an alien? Do you think they're in positions of power disguised as humans? Or do you think that's not possible?
Well, I think that's a very common question about people in politics, that they're actually reptilians. or reptilian hybrids. And honestly, I don't know what to think of that. Personally, I don't think that they are. I think if they are walking among us, they're not doing so in the public eye.
Okay.
I
What do you
believe
think,
that
Michael?
we could be having hybrids doing that.
Okay. Okay.
For me, it's just there's just not enough evidence in the way of supporting that theory for me at this point in time. I do believe that there are hybrids walking along, our Earth along with us. Are they in political positions? I would assume so, but I don't necessarily believe those shape-shifting videos, the artifacting that goes into it, and a lot of other explainable phenomenon when you see that. It's an interesting idea, and very odd that it sits on that side of the fear narrative in certain respects. But I'd have to see a little bit more, actually a lot more on that one.
Yeah, I haven't seen any evidence to support it. I don't think those videos are real or anything. The only thing that I do is I start thinking about it more. That's what convinces me that it may be true. I just start thinking, okay, if they have technology or just understanding of the universe, I 100% believe they could blend into humanity. And if they're already visiting in the skies and they're already going in our bedrooms, I'm like, why wouldn't they just disguise themselves and walk among us? What would stop them from doing that? That's the only evidence I have. It's just the idea that it would be so easy for them. They're already interested in the planet. They're already walking. They're already in the skies. They're already in our bedrooms. They're already above our fields. Why wouldn't they just walk around like us? That's the only evidence I have. Is just that it seems so possible. That's really all.
Why wouldn't they? Yeah. I would agree
Ralph,
with that.
what do you think, Ralph?
I have to agree with you that we don't know. That's just what it comes down to. Is we don't know, but anything is possible.
Right. Okay. My second question was this, and I don't know, Michael. I thought about you when I thought about this question. Okay, so many people, including the Socorro incident with the police officer, so many people say that they see aliens outside the craft, outside the UFO, and it looks like they're picking up rocks or they're picking up plants, like little samples. So the idea is that, these guys are just, they're just like little scientists. They're just picking up. This happens all the time. So my question is, do you think this is real? Is this a show they're putting on? Do they want us to believe that's what they're doing? Or are they actually really collecting rocks and plants? Is that really what they're doing?
I think some of them are doing that.
Again, as we've mentioned. Yeah, go ahead, Damon.
What do? We go up to Mars, and just recently we went to Mars, and what are we doing? We're picking up rocks and samples and taking pictures, and so why wouldn't they?
That's a good point. Very good point.
I was just going to say, we've often speculated that they are taking other life forms here on the planet and doing their own experiments. It's not just us that they're after. They may be studying our entire, biosphere for whatever it's worth. Maybe they're looking at it in respect to what it once was, and they're calculating the change from then until now. Maybe they're looking at it in the way of habitability sometime down the road, and given the path that we're on. I do think that they would be taking some physical samples. It seems a little archaic, right? But again, even Ralph has mentioned here, we do it. So I guess why wouldn't other species do it? Maybe the ones we're seeing that are doing that are not necessarily the ones that are evolved enough wherein they're taking us. Maybe they just got here a week ago and they're like, we didn't know that planet was there. Let's check it out. It's possible. They may not have all been here for as long as we think.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
So
they might be the new learning.
Somebody in the chat room asked, so how can one believe the possibilities that aliens visit when your panelists are abductees? Isn't this a contradiction? I don't think so. I don't think it's a contradiction at all. I mean, even though this has happened to both myself and Kimberly, you still always have to question the possibility of other alien races and what they're doing here, and why they're here in the first place. I don't know about you, Kimberly, but that wasn't revealed to me during my abduction as to why they're here and what they're doing.
Right. I mean, we don't know. we don't really get the chance to sit down and do a one-on-one questionnaire with them.
Right, right.
Yep.
I'm
It's more about,
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, you were
I
saying
said as
something?
much as we'd like to.
Yeah, when I finally remembered the abduction in 1995, I remember that they asked me questions, but I didn't ask them questions. You know, they asked me questions about the world and religion and all that stuff. And I think that that's why my whole worldview changed after the abduction, is because of that. But yeah.
That's
And
interesting.
see, I've always, go ahead, sorry, hon.
No, after you, Kimberly, please.
No, I was just going to say that it's funny because I've always collected rocks ever since I have always had a rock collection all my life, ever since I was a little kid. And being connected to nature, using nature as healing, be it plants, crystals, stones, even now, I use all of that. And during one of the abductions, it was funny because I do remember asking one question, and that was, I wanted to feel the face of the being. And that I do remember asking. And, that's the one thing that I remember. And but I said, only if I don't get sick. So I must have had a pre-idea of, if I touch it, because of the secretion that they have, I must have knew about prior to asking that. And then, but I was allowed to do so. But that was the only question I ever remember being able to ask.
And what did it feel like?
It was from what I remember, was a very thin or a very fine, coarse sandpaper-like feel, almost like a emery board, a real fine. It wasn't smooth.
Wow. Was it dry?
Yeah, it was dry. It wasn't moist that I remember. I just remember the feeling like, it was like coarse, but not.
I remember the feeling almost like it wasn't their skin, that it was very plasticine. And I remember wondering if it was some sort of space suit. But yeah, I remember their skin feeling very plasticine.
Interesting.
It is interesting. Yeah, I don't think many people get the chance to ask.
Right. And see, that's the thing too, our government steps in and they don't allow the ones that would really not be afraid to go forward and, communicate and do things, as we should be able to, as we once were, a long time ago. If that was never broken, things would not be the way they are, I believe.
But we're just sheep,
Yeah, to them, that's what we are.
And it's always been that way, so.
Yeah, we've been dumbed down.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
In fact, I seem to recall a story about the Anunnaki is that we were getting too smart for our britches, and so they actually dumbed us down.
Right.
I've heard that too. I've absolutely heard that. Yeah, it makes sense. It would protect their interest. Sorry, say again, Kim?
I said we used to have more senses than what we do now. Like telepathic and things like that. We've been dumbed down to the 5, where we used to have over 20.
There's something for you, Wild. As a scientist, can you verify that we once had more senses than we currently do?
Well, I can't. I mean, yeah, science can't answer that question. I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm just thinking about it a little bit, and I have to say yes, just because of the fact that we needed more senses to survive, because we didn't have cars, we didn't have houses with locks, we had wild animals everywhere that could kill us. So, I mean, just without even doing much research, just by what I know about our history, yes, we did need, if not more senses, we needed better senses than we have now. We had to be more in tune. We had to listening was so much more important in the past, because we would just be walking around. We could be being stalked by a bear, some kind of giant cat, a dog, and we had to also see. So
So you
100%.
had to have a better sense of awareness.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Absolutely. But, so if you guys in the room are just joining us, I need to mention again that we were supposed to have Laurie McDonald on with us, who is a certified clinical hypnotherapist, and unfortunately she didn't show up tonight. So we've just been chatting about abductions and other stuff. So thanks a lot for joining us. So I think though we're going to wrap it up here pretty quick. I didn't even expect this to go this long. Actually, I thought maybe we'd go about 10 minutes and we'd be done. But yeah, a lot of interesting topics tonight, though. So if you are just joining us, definitely watch the replay of this because I think you'll find it very interesting. Any other questions or comments or anything from anybody?
Just want to say Happy Father's Day to our fathers here, Michael, Damien. I think that's about it. And Happy Father's Day to everybody watching as well.
Absolutely. So
Absolutely.
Anyway,
Thank you.
viewers, thanks a lot for watching, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And if you want to support us, we have a link down in the description, and it's Buy Me a Coffee, and you can buy us a cup of coffee. As little as $5, a one-time donation. Every dollar helps, and so yeah. One of these days we'll be monetized on YouTube, fingers crossed, but I'm not holding my breath anytime soon. So that's the way you can help us financially. But yeah, and then we also have links in the description for all of our other stuff. We have Ralph and I have a group over at Facebook called the Black Lotus discussion group. Please feel free to join. We're not one of those typical paranormal groups where you have a lot of idiots rolling through the feeds and all that stuff. Kimberly also has a group over at Facebook called Not So Paranormal, and she's the same way. She, really is on top of everybody there, and so nobody gets out of line. And of course, we've got DarkHour Paranormal from right here at YouTube. And he has a group over at Facebook called DarkHour Paranormal Live. And Wild Trees, what is your group about? I don't remember. The Wild Dreams or something?
Yeah, I have a group on Facebook. The link is in the profile. And I just post a bunch of articles about science and science and UFOs mainly. And it also, at least I have a video game store as well. So if anybody out there plays video games, retro or modern consoles, you could also go to my Facebook page and there's a link to that video game store. And I also have a YouTube channel which I haven't updated, but I have a few episodes. You could just type in Wild Trees Deep Wild Tech in YouTube.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's get out of here for the night. Viewers, again, thanks a lot for watching, and until next time, keep thinking and question everything.
All right.